So the first thing I do here is just actually save a copy of the diffuse map as a bump map. Okay, so I'm just going to call this water tower bump. And we'll do this one as a PSD. Alright, save it on the desktop. And say OK. Okay, I just want to make sure I don't accidentally save over my diffuse map. Okay, so let's go down to the bottom of our layers here, and I'm just going to start on the wood layer. Let's actually go up and turn off our ambient occlusion layer. We don't really need it on for the bump map. Okay, and we'll go down to the wood, and I'm just going to start on the bottom layer, and we'll just work our way up to the top of the stack, adjusting as we go. Okay, so for the wood, I'm going to desaturate the layer, so Control-Shift-U, okay, to desaturate, or you can do it in the image adjustments, desaturate. Alright, to make it black and white, and let's actually zoom in on it a bit. Alright, and we have, you know, a fair bit of contrast here. Let's actually turn our dirt layer off. Alright, so we can see a bit better. And I don't want it to be this intense. Alright, it's going to look too bumpy. Okay, so let's do an image adjustment, and we'll just use maybe brightness contrast here. Alright, I'm just going to take the contrast down a little bit. Okay, just to make it a little more of a medium gray tone. Alright, we do want to have some detail on it, but I don't want it to be super noticeable. So I'm going to take the contrast all the way down to the bottom. Okay. Okay, and I might just leave the brightness at 0 for now. Alright, and we'll say OK. Alright, we'll see how that looks, and if we need to adjust further, we will. But let's move on to the end grain here. Same thing here, I'm just going to desaturate, Control-Shift-U. And this might be a little too intense, so let's do the same thing. Brightness contrast, and let's lower the contrast down a bit. Alright, just to tone the sharpness of it down just a bit. Okay, we do want to still have some detail in here. Alright, we'll say OK on that. Okay, and the dirt layer here, I think I'm just going to leave that turned off completely. Okay, you could leave it on if you wanted to. Typically I would normally leave any dirt layers on, but I think for this it's not really necessary, so I'm just going to turn it off. Okay, and we'll move up to the concrete base layer. Alright, let's get over there so we can actually see our concrete. Alright, let's turn our moss off. Okay, just so we can see our concrete a little better. And we'll go down to the base layer here. And I'm just going to desaturate it just to make sure there's no color, so Control-Shift-U. Okay, and I might actually do it on all the concrete layers. Okay, desaturate. Desaturate 3 and 4. Alright, Control-Shift-U, and then let's just turn these off. Alright, 4, 3, and 2. And we'll go back to our base layer. I just want to be able to see what it looks like here. And I don't want the bump to be crazy on it. That actually might be okay right there. Okay, so I think I'll leave that. Okay, this one's probably okay. I might just tone it down a little bit, so let's do an image adjustments on it. Let's use levels here. Alright, I might just tweak it a little bit. And make it a little bit brighter. I don't want to have too much contrast in it. Alright, let's see what this would look like. And leave that down. Alright, maybe just something like that, or you could turn it off altogether if you want to, and I think I'll probably end up turning off quite a few of these. Alright, so let's move up to the concrete 3. Alright, this one I don't even think we need on, so I'm just going to leave it turned off. Alright, let's move on to 4 here, turn it on. And I think I'll leave this one on, but I'm going to tone down the opacity a bit and leave it on overlay. So let's take this down a bit so it's not so intense. Alright, we'll just go down to like 35% or so. And I'll leave it like that, and we'll see how it looks at max. If we have to come back, we can. Alright, so let's move up to the tank base metal. Alright, I'm just going to move up so I can actually see the tank. Alright, we'll go up here. Alright, let's actually zoom out a little bit so we can see a bit better. Alright, just get it centered. Okay, and for this layer, I'm going to desaturate it. Control-Shift-U. Alright, let's actually do that to all the tank layers. Alright, desaturate that one. We'll go to the tank rust, desaturate it. Alright, and we'll grab the top one here, tank rust 2. Control-Shift-U, get the color out of there. And let's just turn these off for a second. Okay, just so we can see that base layer. And we'll go back to the base metal. I might just do a quick contrast adjustment on this one. Alright, so open up brightness contrast. I'm just going to take the contrast down a little bit. I'm just looking for kind of like a medium gray tone. We do want to have, some of these little pit details on there, but I don't want them to be too intense, so we'll just lower this down. Okay, we'll just say okay. Alright, that's probably fine for now. We'll move up to the tank metal, turn that one on. Okay, I think we just leave this one turned off. Alright, so let's move up to the tank rust. Okay, and you could leave this one turned off if you want to. I might leave it on, but I'm going to darken this up, okay, because if that rust was, starting to eat away at the surface, it might be pushed in a little bit. Or you could go the opposite way and have it actually built up on the surface. Either way you want to go, but I think I'm going to darken it down. So let's do an image adjustments, brightness, contrast, and I'm just going to take the brightness down a little bit. Alright, it doesn't have to be a lot. I'm going to try to keep a lot of the high frequency detail out of there. Alright, so I'm just going to go down a bit, maybe like negative 95 or so. Okay, and we'll say okay. And let's move up to the tank rust 2 layer. Okay, and this one's more little pit details. And I think I might actually leave this one turned off for now, and we'll put it back on when we get to the spec map. Alright, so we'll move up to the text. Okay, we have the Eagle Ridge text here, and I assume that would be painted on the tank, so I'm just going to turn it off altogether. Okay, and if you were doing something with maybe like a sticker, you could actually leave it on the bump map and just take the level down just so it bumps out slightly, but I don't think we need to do that, so let's turn that off, and the population. Alright, let's move up to the tank drips. Alright, and for these guys, I think I'm just going to turn these off. If you wanted to, you could leave them on and just invert them, so they're a little bit more white than the metal, and it'll have a slight bump to it, but if this was just like a streak or a stain, it's probably really not going to have any kind of raised surface to it. So let's just turn all three off to make it easier. Alright, we'll go up to the pipe. Alright, move over so we can see it. Alright, so for the base metal here, I'm just going to desaturate. Control-Shift-U. Alright, get the color out of there. Let's do that with the rust one too. Alright, let's just turn off the pipe rust for a sec so we can see that underneath layer. Alright, so for this one, it's probably okay. I'm actually just going to take the burn tool right here. Alright, if it doesn't show up the hand here, just hold down the left mouse button and select it. Okay, and this will just let us darken this layer up a bit, so let's take the exposure down to maybe like 15%, and I'm just going to see if I can paint out that hot spot there a bit. Alright, so just quickly go over it a little bit just to make it more of an even tone and color. It doesn't have to be perfect. Alright, even like that's probably fine. And then let's turn our rust layer back on. Let's maybe lower the opacity a little bit and see if we can take down the intensity a bit. I'm just going to lower it to maybe like 40 or 45%. I think that's fine. Okay, and then we'll move back up to the moss layer. Alright, let's turn that back on. Okay, and desaturate it. Control-Shift-U. And it's going to be really dark, so let's invert it. Control-I. Alright, just to make it white, and we want it to obviously bump out of the surface, so we want to have it a whiter shade, so let's actually just lower it down a bit with the opacity. Take it down so it's kind of like a medium gray. Alright, let's move down a little bit here so we can see it on our wood. Okay, so around 40% is probably fine. We don't want it to be sticking out too much. Alright, so that's probably cool for the moss. Let's go up to the roof base metal. Alright, let's move over so we can see the roof. Okay, and same thing here. I'm just going to desaturate. Control-Shift-U. Okay, and we'll do that on the roof rust layer and the roof metal layer. Alright, the roof rust 2, Control-Shift-U. Okay, and we'll just leave the roof dirt as is for now. Okay, and let's go back to the base metal. Alright, same thing here. I might actually turn these off just so we can see it. Okay, so let's turn off the roof dirt, rust, roof metal, and this roof rust. Alright, just so we're looking at the base metal. I might just tone this down a little bit. So let's do image adjustments, and I'll just use brightness and contrast again. Alright, so let's take the contrast down a bit. Alright, I'm just going to try to get rid of some of this hot spot here. We're probably not going to be able to get it all out of there, but let's just take this down a bit. Okay, so I'm going to do, say, negative 40 on the contrast and about negative 60 on the brightness. And again, adjust this to where it looks right to you. If it's not looking right, just make adjustments. Okay, so let's move up to the roof rust layer. I'll turn that on for a sec. And I think I'll leave this one set to multiply, and I'm going to leave the opacity, but I might try to just brighten it up a little bit. Okay, so again, we'll do brightness and contrast, and just maybe raise the brightness just a bit. Okay, maybe around 70 or 75% should be fine, and I think I'll just leave the contrast at 0, and we'll say OK. Alright, we'll move up to the roof metal. Okay, I don't even think we need this one on, so let's turn it off, and let's turn our roof rust 2 layer on for a sec. Okay, and we could leave this one on, but I don't think we really need to. It is pretty noisy here, lots of high frequency detail, so let's just turn it off, and we'll add that back in when we do the spec. Okay, so we'll move up to the roof dirt, and same goes with this one. If you wanted to leave it on, you could invert it and just take it down so it's slightly there, so that there's a little bit of a raise to the dirt, but I don't think we really need to, so let's turn that off as well. Okay, and we'll move up to the rust stain one here for the tank. And I think same goes with this one. I don't think we need it on. Okay, so let's just turn it off completely, and we'll just leave this selection layer off, or we can delete it, and we'll leave the AO off. Okay, so let's just fit this to screen. Take a look here. Okay, so I'm going to try it like this, and we might have to come back and tone the wood down a bit, but let's just save. And we'll see how it looks. Alright, I'm just saving it to the PSD again, and we'll jump back over to Max. Okay, let's open up our material editor. Alright, so we'll open up the maps rollout here, and again, just make sure you have your JPEG in the diffuse channel, and we'll go down to the bump channel. Alright, I'm just going to click on the map box for that, and we'll choose bitmap. Go to the desktop, find our bump map. There it is. Alright, we'll just open this up. And we'll say OK. Alright, and if it's getting really laggy on your computer, you could always switch it out and just use 2 JPEGs instead of a PSD. And as you can see, that looks pretty intense there on the wood. Okay, let's actually just close our active shade window and zoom in a little bit. Alright, I'm going to re-render a little closer up. Okay, and you can see it's way too sharp here. Okay, so we can try toning down the bump amount here, which I might do in a minute, but I'm just going to jump back over to Photoshop for a second and see if I can just tone this down a little bit, the contrast on the wood. Okay, so let's go back down to our wood layer. Alright, let's zoom in here so you can see it a bit closer up. Alright, let's do an image adjustment. So I'm going to try a levels adjustment here. Okay, and we'll just see if we can take down the contrast a bit. Alright, so I'm just going to quickly tweak this. Alright, so I'm going to take the center one here down a little bit to brighten it up. Alright, just a bit. Okay, and let's take the level down here as well. I want to keep it kind of a medium shade of gray. Alright, so go down a bit. Alright, so I'm going to try this, and again, adjust if it doesn't look right. And we'll say OK. And let's fit it back to screen. Okay, so a little less intense, so that might help me. So let's just save here. And we'll jump back over into Max and just see if that takes care of some of it. It's probably still going to be fairly intense. Alright, as you can see, it didn't do a lot of good. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do is just take the bump amount down here. Let's try 10. Okay, I do want some, bump on it, but nothing too intense. So 10 looks like it'll probably work fine. And again, you can tweak that up or down depending on how you want yours to look or how your map is reacting in here. Okay, so that's pretty good. So I'm going to leave it at 10%. Alright, so let's save here. Okay, we'll go back over to Photoshop, and before we make the spec map, I'm just going to actually save a JPEG version of this map as well. Okay, so we'll do save as, back to the desktop, and we'll just do a JPEG. And save. Okay, and I'm just going to leave mine on 12 quality. You can take it down to maybe 9 or 10 if you want to, but we'll just say OK on 12. Alright, and we'll get started on the spec map next. So we could actually modify our bump map into the spec map, but I usually prefer to do it from scratch using the diffuse map. So I'm just going to close the bump map now that we have it saved out as a JPEG, and we'll just go back out and open up our diffuse map one more time, the PSD. Okay, open it up. Alright, let's fit this to screen. Okay, and I think I'll probably end up turning off quite a few of the layers, but let's just turn off the AO to start. Okay, we'll get rid of that, we don't need it on. And we'll go down to the bottom here. Okay, so for the wood, we really don't need to have that on our spec map. I mean, you could leave it there if you wanted to, but it's really not necessary. You don't want to have too much of a highlight on it. So I'm going to pretty much get rid of everything but the metal pieces. Okay, so let's go down to the wood layer, turn it off. Alright, we'll turn off our end grain, turn off our dirt, turn off all 4 concrete layers. Okay, we don't really need those on. Let's also turn off the moss for now. Alright, let's get rid of this rust stain while we're at it. Okay, turn that off. So we're just left with the metal pieces. And we'll go back down to the tank base metal layer, and we'll just start here. Okay, so I'm just going to desaturate that layer with Control-Shift-U. And we'll do that for each of the tank metal layers and the rust layers. Alright, Control-Shift-U, get rid of all the color. Okay, and let's maybe turn off the tank metal, the tank rust 2, and let's also turn off the tank drip layers for now. Alright, I just want to be able to see just the base metal, okay, by itself. Alright, so we'll go back to that layer. Let's zoom in here so we can see a bit. Let's just do a quick adjustment on this. So I'm going to use brightness and contrast again, and I want to keep this somewhat of a kind of like a medium tone of gray, but I'm just going to take the contrast down slightly. Alright, just a bit. We do have these hot spots still in the picture, so that part of the tank is going to have more specular because it's lighter. So we'll just tone this down a little bit. It doesn't have to be much. We'll just work through the layers, and if we have to come back to the base and adjust, we will. So I'm just going to take it down to maybe like -20 or 25% on each, the brightness and the contrast. And again, this will depend on your display. I'm just looking for kind of like a medium tone, so if this doesn't look like a medium gray, just adjust until yours does. Okay, and we'll say okay on that. Alright, let's go up to the tank metal layer. Alright, let's turn that back on. And we'll just quickly adjust this with brightness and contrast as well. Okay, and I just want to have kind of a broken highlight on the tank, so let's just take the brightness up slightly here. Doesn't have to be much. And let's take the contrast up. Alright, we'll go up a bit. Okay, maybe just like that. So we'll do 12 or so and 50 on the contrast. And okay. Alright, we still have this set to multiply, which I'm going to leave, but it might tone down the opacity just a bit. Alright, maybe like 60 or 65% should be fine. Okay, and we'll move up to the tank rust layer. Alright, turn it on. And we could leave this one off, but I think I might leave it on there just a bit. I'm just going to darken up the bottom here. Alright, so in adjustments, we'll just use brightness and contrast again. Alright, I'm going to take the brightness way down. I might take it right down to the bottom. Alright, I just want the bottom where the rust mark is to be darker, because that would be rougher, and it's probably not going to have as much of a shine or a specular highlight as the actual metal up here that's not rusted. Okay, so we want it to be a little bit darker. Alright, let's take the contrast up. Okay, I'm going to go fairly intense here. Alright, so we'll take the brightness all the way down to -150, and we'll take the contrast way up to like 80. Okay, and say okay. And I might actually even make this darker, so let's do the blending modes here. Let's change it to maybe multiply, which is going to make it really dark. Okay, and let's just tone the opacity down slightly. Alright, I might keep it around 60 or 65%. I do want that to be fairly dark. Alright, so we'll just do it like that. That should be fine. Okay, let's go up to the tank rust 2 layer. Okay, I don't even think I'm going to turn that one on. We'll leave it off. Okay, and we'll move up to the Eagle Ridge text. And I do want this to have a bit of a shine to it, that paint. So let's just leave it on soft light. I'm just going to take the opacity down a little bit. Okay, just to make it a little more faint. Alright, we'll do maybe like 70 or so for now. And let's do the same with the population text. We'll just take it down to about 70. Alright, we might adjust that after. We're still going to have to turn our drip layers on here too. Okay, so we'll move up to the tank drips. Turn that on. Okay, and before we go any further here, let's actually just save this. Alright, so we'll do save as. I just want to make sure I don't accidentally save over that diffuse map. And I have done that before by accident when I wasn't paying attention and lost my diffuse map, so a little paranoid. Alright, so let's just call this water tower spec. And we'll just save it as a PSD and save it to the desktop. Alright. And okay. Alright, and let's go back and turn our 2 ridge drip layers on. Alright, these guys here. Alright, and it might actually be fine like this. I think I'll leave it like that for now, and if we have to make it darker, we can. Again, I want to have a little bit less of a highlight on the streaks here. If it was dirt or rust or whatever leaking out of there, it's not going to be as shiny as the rest around it. Okay, so we want to leave it dark. Alright, so we'll just leave and we'll move up to the pipe base metal layer. Alright, I'm just going to move over so I can see that. And we'll desaturate it, Control-Shift-U. Alright, let's also do that with the pipe rust. Control-Shift-U. Alright, let's zoom in a bit, and let's turn off the pipe rust for a second so we can see the base layer. Okay, so I think I'm just going to darken this up a little bit. Alright, so image adjustments, brightness contrast again, and we'll just take the brightness down. Alright, so it's not so bright. Alright, maybe -50 or so. And I'll leave the contrast at 0 and just hit OK. And we do have a bit of a hot spot here, which will give us a little bit of a brighter spot. I might leave that like that right for now, and if we have to, we'll just darken that up. But let's turn on our pipe rust layer first. Okay, and same thing with this. I think I'm just going to tone it down a little bit. Alright, same deal, brightness contrast, and we'll just take down the contrast a little bit. I'm just going to tone down the brightness slightly. I don't want to make it too dark, but alright, we'll just make a slight adjustment, and I'm just going to hit OK here. And this one also has the hotspot, as you can see, so I might actually just burn that out of there. Okay, so we'll go over here. If you don't see the hand, then just hold down the button and select the burn tool, which is the hand. Okay, we'll take our exposure down pretty low, maybe 10 or 15%, and I'm just going to use a soft brush for this. And I'm just going to paint over that really quickly. Alright, it'll just darken it up a little bit for us. Okay, and let's turn that off for a second, do the same thing on the pipe base metal. Alright, just quickly hit it, just to get rid of the bright spots. Alright, turn our pipe rust back on. And I think I'll just leave that as is for now. Let's move up to the moss layer here and turn it on. Okay, so it's still green, obviously, so let's desaturate it. Control-Shift-U. Alright, it's going to be pretty dark, and I do want to keep it dark on the spec map because I don't really want it to have any kind of highlight. If you're trying to make something look wet, you'd want to have a highlight on the moss, but for this we'll just leave it, and I might actually add a layer mask to this layer. Alright, so let's do that. Hit the add layer mask button. Alright, let's actually just fit this to screen for a second. Okay, and we'll go into the channels and turn our mask layer on. Alright, I'm just going to grab the paint bucket here and black as my color and just fill the mask. Alright, and then we'll go back out to the layers. Alright, zoom back in on our pipe. Alright, let's drag a selection around that. Alright, just a pipe piece. Okay, and then we'll turn our mask on here so it's active, and I'm going to switch the color to white and just fill the square here with the paint bucket. Okay, and that's just going to bring back the moss on the pipe, but it's going to hide it down here where the wood was. We don't need it down there. Okay, so that's probably fine for that layer. Alright, let's fit it back to screen so we can see what we're doing a bit better, and we'll just move up to the roof base metal. Let's desaturate it, Control-Shift-U. We'll do that with the roof rust, the roof metal, the roof rust too. Alright, get rid of all that color. The roof dirt we'll just leave as is. Okay, so let's go back down to the base metal layer, and I'm just going to zoom in here so we can see. Alright, let's just turn off the roof dirt, roof rust 2, roof metal, and roof rust, just so we're looking at the base level again. Okay, and I might just take this down to a little bit of a more even color. Okay, so we'll do image adjustments, brightness contrast. We'll just tone it down a little bit on the brightness. We do have this hot spot here, so I'm also going to lower the contrast a bit and see if we can kind of even that out. We're not going to get rid of it all, but we'll just try to get rid of some of it. Alright, we could burn it, but I'm not going to worry about it. Alright, so just go down to like -70 and maybe -30 on the contrast should be fine. Say OK. Move back up to the roof rust layer, and we'll turn that guy on. Alright, I think I might leave this one turned off. I don't think we need it on. Okay, so we'll move up to the roof metal and turn that one on. I might just darken this one up slightly just by taking the opacity back up to 100%. Okay, and let's do an image adjustment on this too. Alright, let's try levels. Alright, I'm just going to take the dark one in here a little bit. take the light one down a bit. I'm just trying to get some brighter spots in the center there. Alright, so just tweak this quickly. And we can always come back if we have to, but we'll just take it down a bit. Alright, maybe like that, just so it's a little more contrasty. And we'll say OK. And we'll leave that for now and move on to the Roof Rust 2 layer. Alright, let's turn that guy on. Alright, let's apply the layer mask. I'm just going to right-click on the mask box and just say Apply Layer Mask. Okay, and let's do an adjustment on this one. I'm going to try brightness and contrast here. Right, I'm just going to take the contrast down a bit because we have these little white specks in there. I just want to get rid of some of that if I can. Okay, so we'll take the contrast way down to maybe like -50. Alright, let's lower the brightness slightly. Okay, I'm just going to take it down a bit like that, and we'll say OK here. Alright, let's also turn our roof dirt layer on. Okay, just so we get some of that back. I'm actually going to turn the ambient occlusion map on as well for now. Okay, and I want this to be a little bit brighter on the roof. Okay, so let's zoom in on it. I'm just going to go back down to the roof metal layer. Okay, this one. So I'm just going to add a layer mask. Okay, and we'll select the mask, and I'm just going to go grab a paintbrush and black as my color. Alright, make the brush a little bigger here. I'm just going to use the soft round brush. Okay, and I'm just going to take the opacity down on that to maybe around 20. Okay, and I'm just going to paint in the mask here. See if I can brighten this up a little bit. Alright, let's go a little higher on the opacity. Take it up to like 40. Okay. So I'm just going to hide some of this so the brighter layer underneath will come through. Alright, and we'll try to keep it between the ridges here. Because dirt would probably collect along those ridges and it's going to darken up the highlight. It's not going to be as shiny where it's dirty. Okay. Let's just quickly do this, and if you wanted to do it a different way you could. I'm just doing it this way for the sake of speed. Alright, let's turn our UVs on for a sec. Alright, so just work across. Alright, let's turn the UVs on again. I'm just going to go between these ones here. And I'm going to kind of follow the lighter parts on the image here. Alright, I might take some of this dark stuff out, but I'm going to stick more to the lighter areas. Maybe tone this down slightly. Go over here. Alright, one more to go. And this will just help, bring out kind of like a blotchy kind of specular highlight on the top of the roof, and that's what I'm trying to get. Let's just continue on here. Turn these back on. Tone this down a little bit, maybe. Okay, and then I might just raise my opacity here on the brush a little higher. We'll go like 70 or so %. Alright, and I'm just gonna hit it and brighten it up a little more in some spots. Alright, let's take it up to 100%. I'm just going to shrink the brush down a little bit more. Alright, I think we're pretty much right through to the other layer underneath, so It's not going to get much better than this. Alright, let's zoom back out, just take a look. Okay, so that's just going to give us, some forced specular on the roof. I think the tank's going to probably need to be brightened up a little bit, but let's just do a save here. Let's actually save a JPEG version of this too, while we're at it. Okay, so we'll just do water tower spec again, and JPEG, and save. Alright, we'll leave it on 12 quality. Again, you can go down to 10 if you want to, but I'm going to leave it on 12. And we'll just go back over to max here. Alright, let's actually close the active shade window. Alright, just zoom out here so we can kind of see the whole tower again. Alright, let's turn the active shade back on. Alright, I'm just going to open up the material editor here, and I'm going to swap out the bump map for the JPEG version. Okay, so click on that. And let's just change this to all formats. Right, find our bump JPEG and open it up. Alright, and let's go up a level, and we'll just add our spec map into the specular level map box here. Alright, so choose bitmap, go back to the desktop. Okay, and I'm just going to load the JPEG version. Okay, just because it's going to be a little quicker to load. Okay, so we'll open that up. Alright, we'll see it over here. Okay, so you can see it quite a bit brighter. Let's just close the material editor for a sec. Alright, I'm just going to spin around a bit and see how this looks. Okay, so we're getting a decent highlight on the roof. Let's just go low down and see what that looks like. Okay, so that's not too bad. We might have to tweak the tank a little bit more. Let's do another one a little closer up here. Okay, so it's looking a little dull. Alright, so let's just do a save in max, and we'll go back over to Photoshop and just tweak that tank a little bit more. Alright, so let's quickly adjust this a little more. Okay, I'm just going to select the roof metal layer again, the actual image there, and I'm just going to do an adjustment on this. Alright, let's do a brightness contrast, and I'm actually just going to take the brightness down even farther. Okay, so it's pretty dark. Okay, and we'll say okay, maybe around -55 or so. Alright, and then let's see if we can brighten up the tank a bit. Alright, so I'm just going to go back down to the tank base metal layer. Okay, and let's do an image adjustments on this, and I might do a levels adjustment here. Alright, we'll see if we can quickly tweak this. Alright, let's take it down a bit. I just want to try to brighten it up a bit. I'm going to try to keep it somewhat, broken up and blotchy, but just want it to be a bit brighter. Okay, so let's do something like that maybe, and again adjust to wherever it looks right on your particular display. And I'm going to say okay here. Alright, let's just go up to the tank metal layer just above it. Okay, and I'm just going to see if I can just adjust this a little bit. So I might go up slightly on it, maybe around 70 or so. Okay, we'll try that. The pipe's looking kind of dark here as well. Okay, so let's go back up to our pipe layers. Alright, and I'm just going to grab the pipe base metal layer there, and we'll just do adjustments on this. Alright, brightness contrast. I'm going to see if I can brighten it up a bit. Okay. Alright, take this up fairly high. I do want that pipe to have some highlights, so we'll go up to around 100, 110 or something like that. Okay, let's zoom in there. Okay, so that might even be fine. Alright, so we'll save again, and we'll see if this is an improvement. Alright, so let's save, and I'm going to save this over top of the JPEG version. Alright, so we'll just select JPEG here, find our spec, and just save, and then overwrite it. And okay. Alright, we'll jump back over to max. Okay, let's zoom in here. Turn our active shade back on. Okay, so not too bad. Let's open up our material editor here for a sec. Alright, and this doesn't look too bad to me, but if it's looking too bright or too dark to you, you can always just make adjustments to the amount here too. Okay, like you can bring it up to say like 120 and it'll get brighter. Or you can take it back down into like the negatives, or not negative, but somewhere under 100, and it'll darken it down. Okay, so just adjust it to wherever it looks about right to you. I'm going to try maybe mine on like 110. Okay, and let's just close this. And again, the spec map really is going to depend on, where your lights are sitting and how they're hitting the surface and what angle you're, viewing it from. Alright, so I'm just going to rotate around a bit. Alright, we'll do a quick render from up here. Okay, not too bad. Alright, I'm just going to render from down here and see how that looks. Okay, so I think this is about where I want it, but that was a pretty quick spec map, and you could definitely go back and forth and really tweak it to get it to exactly where you want it to be. Alright, so I think we're finally done with the tutorial, or this is as far as I'm going to take it at least. You could go back in though and continue to tweak your spec map. That could probably be improved a little bit. But yeah, I'm just going to leave it like this. Okay, so let's close out the material editor and the active shade window. Okay, and we'll just do a quick render here just to finish it off. Alright, so let's turn on our save frames in the perspective view and open up our render dialog. Alright, and we'll just make the size maybe like 9 by 9. Okay, and let's just render it and see how it looks. Okay, so not too bad. It's a little soft looking, and that's just because we toned our bump map down to like 10%. So what I might do here is just zoom in a little closer. Alright, let's re-render. Okay, so let's clone this render, and I'm just going to open up the render dialog again, and we'll just go into the renderer tab here, and I'm just going to switch out the anti-aliasing filter from area, which is the default, to maybe Catmull ROM. Okay, you could use a different one here, but I like to use Catmull when I do wood because it's nice and crisp. Okay, so we'll re-render. Alright, so let's close that up, and you can see the difference it makes here. Alright, this is a lot crisper than this one. Okay, you just want to watch it when you use this because it can be too sharp if the bump map's too intense, but that doesn't look bad. Okay, and I think it's a lot better than this one, so I'm just going to close that. Alright, so let's move this over here. Let's close that. Alright, and let's actually render the back of it and see what it looks like. We never did do that. Okay, so I'm just going to go to rotate here, turn on my angle snaps. Alright, we'll just grab the model. Okay, and I'm just going to give it a spin just around so we can see the back. Alright, we'll do it maybe like 120 or something on the degrees. Right, zoom out a little bit. Okay, and let's just render again. I'm just going to clone this one here. Alright, hit render. We'll see what the back looks like. Okay, so not too bad. You can still see that seam a little bit, so you might want to go in and just clean that up. But overall, I think it came out good. And I can't take complete credit for the texture. I did have a little help along the way from my brother Ben and Caleb Aylesworth from CG Tuts. Both had some input into how this ended up looking. They just helped me fine-tune it and get some of the detail in it. So I just want to say thanks to those guys for their help. And I guess that'll about do it. So hopefully you enjoyed watching it and got a decent result and maybe learned something from it. And a lot of the techniques we use could be transferred to any other thing you model or texture. They're pretty universal. Okay, so I guess that does it, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.